All set, and we are recording, and we're going to allow attendees in now.
Shelly, I see you in there. Thanks for joining us. Glad to have you here. We're going to give everybody 1 extra minute to come in, and then otherwise we'll jump right in and get started. Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming in. My name is Michael Carbini with ZSpace. Humbled to have you here today. And always just going to give them about 30 seconds. And we are going to kick it off. Amy and Shelly and Raphael, I see you coming. And then those of you that always forget to change your name on your Zoom, that's always fun because we can make up and be whoever we want. So I thank you all for coming today. And we're going to have a little bit of fun. As you can see, we are in the Zoom world, but one of the things that's unique about this one is we're in the panelists versus attendees. So keep in mind that the chat is really going to be key as I'm going through things today, because this is going to be super fast, and I know you're going to have questions, but I want to make sure that we get a chance to do that, and we get a chance to answer those, and obviously chat is going to be the best way to do that. So with that said, we're going to kick it off. Type in any questions that you want. I'll make sure and toggle in between. I have the great members of tech here. I've also got my team here from ZSpace to help you as you have questions. So with that said, we're going to kick it off and get you started. So I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to have a little fun today talking about AR and VR and what you can do with that to help your students earn some industry credentials in the new world. So my name is Michael Carbini. I am the Executive Director of Workforce for ZSpace, which means that I ultimately oversee all of the CTE offerings, whether that's K-12 or post-secondary. I am a former CTE director of a large school district down in South Florida. And so I've always been in this space, and I'm really excited to be here. So as we think about today, one of the great challenges is when we think about the paradigm of education, some of you have started out with face-to-face, then we did all this stuff in between, and then we're at distance learning. And it's like, everybody's just trying to do something, and we're trying to make the best of a crazy situation. But the one thing we really do know is that this has accelerated how we can teach, and we can start to use some different tools. So what's important today is when I talk to you about ZSpace, I'm really talking to you about AR and VR in general. It doesn't matter what your pedagogy is. If you're going to do face-to-face, if you're going to do distance, or if you're going to do a hybrid of any of these other options in between here, you can use AR and VR to be a positive for your students in between any of those solutions. So just to set the landscape, I am a believer in all of AR and VR. So many of you will know VR by the head-mounted displays. Others will know it by augmented reality, which is kind of a BYOD. ZSpace is in between those, and we are mixed reality. So going a little step further, VR is what virtual reality, and think of that as a head-mounted display or where you're covering the eyes, powerful experience when you want to go somewhere. You want to go into a virtual reality, quite what it says. This can be very powerful for students when they're trying to explore, a place that they couldn't traditionally get to. However, there are all drawbacks to it, and that the sense of it is a one-on-one experience. It is hard to collaborate in that space. And then there is some obvious hygiene of passing a mask around and things like that, and those head-mounted displays that go with it. The content around the head-mounted displays has been very, very gaming focused. And as an owner, I love that. And we play things like Beat Saber with my kids. It's very popular in the gaming space. Now, as most of us have today with our phones next to us, the very fastly growing area is augmented reality. The difference being now you're using your own device, whether that's a tablet or a phone or the wide variety of options. You're augmenting a particular space or time in front of you. So that could be something like a very popular one is where like I take the camera and I make myself have a flowing set of hair, and all of a sudden I move my camera and that goes away. That can be really valuable because you can augment a particular item in a space, but it doesn't require the full immersion that it would with a VR experience. So what is ZSpace? Let me show you a little clip of what ZSpace is to help you see that.
Welcome to the real world of virtual reality on the ZSpace platform. What is ZSpace? It's a tabletop virtual reality that's transforming education today. ZSpace functions as your typical Windows PC until you open the ZSpace application, and then the magic really begins. Long story short, ZSpace tracks the user's eyewear and stylus in real time, allowing the user to comfortably reach in and interact, move around, dissect, blow up, or change different variables within the environment. Welcome to the real.
So you got a chance to see, we're going to talk about that. There's a couple pieces of hardware that are different, where you saw a large screen there. That's called the all-in-one. That's really going to be great for collaboration. Then you saw also a laptop where you're going to have the stylus where you're manipulating, but it's just these glasses, and we use passive technology to make that happen. And I'm going to show you what that looks like as we move through it when we talk about your synchronous or asynchronous learning. So what you're seeing is a list of applications. I am not going to get through all these today, but there is a ton of content, whether you're talking about corrections, adult education, remediation, biology, chemistry, physics. There is a lot of content that ZSpace has to offer as a platform. So if you have those questions, please be sure to reach out to the tech team, or if you have curriculum questions, I'll put my email in here at the end. Please be sure to reach out to me, and I'm happy to talk about some of those because we're not going to have a chance to get through all of those today. These are also readily available on zspace.com or, of course, Tech's website. Most important, remember that ZSpace, we are talking about career and technical education today and earning industry credentials. So we have a partnership with NOCTI. And for those of you in the Northeast, you're going to know NOCTI. It's an industry and credentialing organization. And what we've done is we've partnered with NOCTI to allow your students to earn some job-ready certification. So now we're really moving away from playing with objects and actually focusing on a task or a skill. Things like automotive, where you're going to take apart the brakes or work on the transmission. You know, you can do those things, and they're explicitly supporting that NOCTI credential. So what does that actually look like? Because you got to understand how that fits. So what you're seeing here is the blueprint. This could be something, whether it's small animal science, like a vet program, where you're going to see these dotted lines, and they lead to this application. And up at the top, you're going to see the key. So you could be doing something simple like ag mechanics, where you're going to have to be able to complement and blend these things together. What it means is that, you know, AR, VR will never replace the real thing. And as a former CTE director and son of a welder and grandson of a mechanic, these are things that I know very, very well. But what we can do is expose students in a very safe way on things that would typically be dangerous and allow that to happen. So you see down here, it says, exhibit knowledge and proficiency of fluid power systems. This dotted line means that this application, all the way up at the top, advanced manufacturing hydraulics, allows you to do that. There are 32 different ones. Now, some of these things are not going to have a dot drawing over to it. That's because you still need the instructor, the master of the classroom, to be that subject matter expert and to help their students. So this is where you can see it's a blending of using real time, speaking the language of these digital natives and getting them excited. So what does that look like? You're going to see things where this is an application called Agri-Science, where I can explore all kinds of topics. Fantastic for career exploration, but also it could be something simple as, you know, as I mentioned, agriculture, where you're looking at corn in going through this. This covers a lot of topic areas where I'm going to be able to create lessons around this. And then it also could be just something simple where, as we mentioned at the beginning, animal sciences, no German shepherds were harmed in the making of this, I promise. So you're going to have the chance to go through it. They're going to take this apart. You could see the frog, the fetal pig, if you're a biology program. Think of the instructional minutes you lose setting up and breaking down. That's a great way to use AR and VR. And of course, we can start to do things live, and then they're actually seeing us taking it apart. So let me show you the first little video clip. Think of this about an asynchronous way for you to use this with your students. So I record this video. You're going to see me manipulate this, but here's what's really powerful about this. This video is an MP4. Why is that important for those of you that may not understand? Is I don't have to worry about your learning management system. If you use Canvas, DTL, Blackboard, there are tons and tons of options. They all accept an MP4. So what does that look like? When we talk about flipping the classroom and using augmented or virtual reality to do that, maybe I want to take my students through a little adventure of a 4-stroke engine. So it could be career exploration. This could be automotive. I could even be in agriculture, where now you're seeing I have the engine. I'm going to turn it on and it's going to start to move. We use an acronym called DICE because this would be dangerous in real life. And it would allow you to see something that is dangerous or, inexpensive, counterproductive, or expensive, and allow you to do that. Now I could flip it just as easily in the same program and pull up a cow. And I could take this and use it in a culinary program if I wanted to. We have a lot of different examples. Maybe I'm a 4-H club and FFA. There's a lot of different examples of what I can do, but it allows me to go through it. I can take this apart. I can enlarge it. And if students miss, they can go back and reference this video as much as they want. And what's even more powerful is I'm voicing over this. So you think about consistency in your classroom and the messaging. I can do this to have a consistent message. So, we're going through quick. I wanted you to see this is all of that content inside of this application. This content list is easily available on ZSpace.com, or you can take a screenshot of it today. So there's going to be a ton of human anatomy and the microbiology. Oh man, we've got a coronavirus in here that they can take apart, because we know that students are always going to have that, but they're going to be able to actually take apart things like this and let them see it. So I wanted you to see that today. Fantastic lessons all around that. And then as we pivot, we think about the health. Now, this is where it's going to get fun. I'm actually going to take a minute and I'm going to show you what this looks like in real life, where we get the chance to see something called mixed reality. And I love it. So thinking about the original blueprints, just like I said, here's the breakdown. When you see things like medical terminology and abbreviations, that is embedded in all certifications. Whether we're talking about dental assisting, or maybe we're getting into things like CMAs or ECG, CNA, you're going to have a way for your students to learn medical terminology at a very accelerated pace. All of these applications will support that. So what does that look like? Let me show you and let you hear from one of our community colleges that use this, and you're going to get the student voice. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to work with my partner, Lisa Grippo, and I'm going to let you guys see how this works in a remote setting. So let's take a minute and hear from Dr. Hackworth and a few of his students.
In this day and age, not just at Bishop State, but at the collegiate level, just in learning in general, we focus on active learning. So ZSpace plays a part in that, where we bring the students in and they see something different. The student is engaged and take part of their own learning. This type of technology, where they're able to manipulate the parts and bring it to a 3D motion and bring it out to you so I can really see, brings home a whole new world. It's almost like a wow factor.
Being that I am going into the medical field, I am able to see things up close and personal without having to work on a cadaver or reading pages in a book as well. It's very interactive, where I can actually see certain things that I wouldn't be able to see.
When you're using traditional paper, it can only do so much. You can see a picture and it's flat, it's not three-dimensional, so you don't have a real good idea of how it's actually shaped beyond what you see in front of you. But with ZSpace, you can turn it around, you can flip it, you can remove things, you can go inside of it. You can see the ventricles pump in and out in the heart. You can see the atriums, you can see the veins, the blood, the capillaries, all those things. For a nursing student and for any type of student that's dealing with anatomy, it just helps you get a better grasp of the human body.
In this day and age,
So that program is called Visible Body. Now, this is going to be the baseline of it, where there's 127 that you're going to see, 127 different models. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing right now, and I'm going to let you see a really neat way that we can collaborate. So on here, I have one of my, our regional director, Lisa Grippo, with us. She is going to share her screen, and you're going to see where we're now, she's going to take over. So think of her as the teacher. She could be doing this whole group instruction, or she could be doing this just like now over a Zoom, Google Meets, all those different elements. So Lisa, could you show me some of the different great features with mixed reality?
Wonderful. Thank you. Hello, Michael. As Michael said, I'm sort of demonstrating what this would look like could potentially for teachers. So I am in my home office. So with ZSpace, we have, as he had explained, a couple of different hardware options. I currently have my all-in-one setup. There's a web camera next to it, and I'm attached to a second screen. And that screen can be any secondary screen or simply a projector, because what is happening is this camera here is going to capture what I'm experiencing in 3D and render it to you in 2D. So this has been very helpful. Many of our instructors have found, keeping their students, I'm sure all of you can relate, engaged during this time has proven to be somewhat challenging. So having all of these models available to them to have access to their students, and then also being able to pop into augmented view, which I'm going to show you in a minute. So as Michael was telling you, there is a tremendous number. Well, one of the things you'll notice I put on my lightweight glasses. So the model is responding to the sensors in my glasses, and I'm going to work with the stylus. So up here, you can see all of the different models, and I have this just in standard mode. So you have your regional views, and then you'll have all of your different system views. So this is one of the many programs that's going to support our health pathways, but this is one. There's a tremendous value here. There's some really great media built in. There's built-in quizzing. So I'm just simply going to choose the hand and the wrist, because I think this is kind of a fun one to show. And as he was talking about medical terminology, now I not only have the ability to look at this in 3D in front of me, if I select a part of the body, over here, if I click on the book, it's going to give me a definition of that part of the body that I've chosen. This also comes in multiple languages, so students have the ability to learn in their native language. There is the ability, if you click on the stethoscope, it's going to give you conditions related to that particular part of the body, as well as definitions, and there is a text-to-speech to read that aloud. The other great part of this particular application is it's going to give you additional information over here, so you can really drill down and get very detailed information about the part of the body that you are studying. So this has been a great tool for our customers, and we often see it used as, this is one of the tools in their lab when students are able to do research. Now I'm putting this into augmented view, as Michael said, just to kind of make it fun. So we're just waving hello to you all. So this is, again, I could be recording this lesson. It would be a very terrible lesson because I'm not an anatomy instructor. However, I do have the option of either using Windows Game Bar or simply clicking record up here in the corner. Now I'm recording this lesson. I can, again, toggle back and forth between this mode very easily, or go back into standard mode, depending upon what I would like my students to be focused on. And now when I stop this wonderful lesson that I've just created, it's going to save as an MP4, as Michael was saying. And now I have the ability to share that out with any students who may not have been able to join this amazing lesson this morning. So that's a little a little bit, showing you just a little bit about ZSpace and how it could be used in this environment that we find ourselves in today.
I love it. So thank you for demonstrating that, Lisa. And we did that for a multitude of reasons. I wanted you all to see just how easy it is and how she was sharing her screen, but she could have been leading the front of the classroom connected to a Promethean, a smartboard, any of those countless interactive flat panels that are out there. So what's important is we just demonstrated that process for you. Now we're going to really accelerate it now, and I want to get through some of the other content so you get a chance to see it. But I hope you're having a great way of we're building that vision for you and letting you see all the different ways that you can use this. And that makes it a lot of fun as they work through it. So that was a great way to see synchronous. And how powerful was that, that she just was waving at us as we're going through it. So I love it. And now I'm going to share back through here, and we're going to start to look at some of those lessons. And what you're seeing here is, again, reminding you that this is what it happens when you can just record it asynchronous. Just to reiterate, you can see those all inside of here, and you're able to do that. Another one I wanted to show you, those of you that are maybe our post-secondary partners here today, and your students are interested in looking at MRIs or CT scans, we have a fantastic product called EchoPixel that allows you to see, that is an actual human heart, that instead of looking at those slices of an MRI, it renders that three-dimensionally. This is actually one of the things that ZSpace was very early on. There's a great way that we worked with Stanford Medical Institute to do this, where there was a separating of Siamese twins. It's a great thing. You can Google it if you get a chance. I love it. But very, very powerful application for something that costs millions, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars to have an MRI screen readily available. So with that said, I want to pivot into a little bit of manufacturing. We talk about robotics and manufacturing. So what does that look like inside of this space? Well, Mechatronics is a foundational program across K-12, really K-20, but it's really, there's a lot of abstract thinking to it. There's a lot of processing. So creating visuals for students to see it is going to be really, really important. And let me be very clear, again, this is never going to replace. There's some fantastic products out there like Festo Mechatronic Labs. I love Festo products. Blending these things together really makes it go. And so you're going to see things like identifying principles of a problem-solving process. You know, you're going to need to be able to really think about things visually. How do you do that? Well, you take an application like this where we're going to focus on these 5 core areas that you would find. And again, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you where I can now take my students through this. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to look on my connections, and I'm going to allow them to look at something like a flat key or a sliding key. And here's what's really neat is you don't have to be an expert. I think that's the other thing that as educational leaders, we always think that we have to, you know, stay slightly ahead of the students, but this is a way where the students will really tell you what they enjoy. This is a sectional view. Everybody teaches that. I can take my own arbitrary slice where I'm cutting this and I'm not wasting parts. So you think about this, look at that. I can pull that out. That is so powerful for students. You know, I can explode it and take, nothing's lost. It didn't end up in the trash can or little Jimmy's pocket and he took it home. You know, all of these things are here. And then I can get into disassembling and assembling. And as silly as it sounds, we forget about how many instructional minutes are lost because we're looking for parts, we're setting it up and breaking down. What about when there's a substitute and you want to make sure instruction continues? This allows that to happen. The students can get on here and do all of this. And one of the other things I didn't mention, what you're seeing here, all of our applications, take that back, there's 2, they do not require internet. This is an application based. So I'm sure none of you have internet issues at your schools, but maybe down for me down here in Florida, our schools get a little wacky and I don't want instruction to stop because I can't get on my LMS and access something. However, this is an application-based, stored locally on the ZSpace hardware, and that allows you to do what you're doing here, and I don't have to worry about students missing it, and that is very, very powerful. So if I learn things like logistics, I'm seeing that here where I can let them see that assembly line. And this is really important because this builds to some very complex pieces when we talk about programmable logic controllers, or PLCs. This is all the foundation of that. Students have to understand inputs and outputs. They're starting to see, you see those little arrows? That is connecting the mathematics, and they're starting to understand the relevance of this. Why do I need to understand this? Why? Typically a teacher has this and they sit it right in front of it and they go, okay, everybody stand around me. Go ahead and take a peek at this. This allows you to really speak the language of the digital native that all of our students are now. So you're seeing it here. They start to get some of those fundamentals. We know that in CTE, it's important to do cross-curricular and blend together our mathematics with that. And then of course, sometimes the great advantage is you just want to simulate failure. And that's, you want your students, you're seeing here, where what happens when that's not right, it's going to leak. So you can simulate things that traditionally would be very dangerous or impossible to do. So that's what you're being allowed to do here in a safe environment. And you're seeing what's the value of that seal. Now, if I seal it, all of a sudden, it's not going to leak out. And that's what you're seeing here. And it goes through that process. It seals it. And now I can redo that. And they get a chance to see that in a very safe way. Incredibly powerful. Think of that as a pre-lesson, maybe a post-review for an exam. I love that. Even beyond that, when we start to think about things where I'm looking at additive manufacturing, fluid, hydraulics, look at that. I'm seeing the inner workings. That's impossible. You would never see that unless we created that in a virtual setting. And that's what makes it really great. This sure the heck beats a syringe that somebody would be using when they try and show the fluid going in and out. I've seen those. This is really speaking the language of the students and letting them do it. There's no mess. There's no craziness. This is powerful. And I'm seeing it when I love the perspective view. Check this out. I'm going to click here and it's going to go yellow. And when I click it, it makes it transparent. That's really important because if you have a manufacturing or 3D printing, you're allowing your students to truly see the parts. They can understand, oh, that's what that whole piece is covering. So if there's a crack in it or if it's damaged, I have to replace this whole piece. And the idea is once they learn about all those vane pumps, we want to put them to work. We want to put it to action. So what they're going to do here is they're going to see a blueprint. And blueprint reading and schematics is very important. And they're going to have a chance to take that and build that right here. So you go into the application, I'm going to go down to the bottom right, and I click out circuit building. And what you're seeing here is I go into that task, and there's actually 12 different tasks that students get a chance to go through, and I am building it. It's not going to replace, but man, this is a beautiful complement when you have your students, when maybe you have the real setup in your classroom, but you're currently, you only have one or two that can work on that at a time. You can have them virtually do it here. Maybe we have students that have different IEP or 504 needs. You can truly accommodate them and allow them to get meaningful instruction. And that is incredibly powerful. And that's what's right for the student. And you're seeing it right here where I'm going through and now I'm going to run those hoses and I'm going to allow that to happen. And then I'm actually going to turn it on and I'm going to let that actuator actuate. And that is going to prove to me that I did this correctly. I didn't have to manage this as a teacher. I didn't have to have somebody stand over my shoulder of the students. It's all a safe, controlled environment. And that is really going to help your instruction be accelerated. And when we think about all the learning loss that has happened, we've got to accelerate learning. And this is a great way to do that in a safe way. So I love what that does. And all of that continues to build. So when you get into industrial robotics, this is ladder logic, and you start to think about those pieces. This is very complex and hard for students to understand, and they learn about the rungs and a ladder. Well, what we can do is you can look at these sensors, and now can start to actually make it make sense and go, oh, okay, a proximity sensor, a force sensor, slip, what are these things? Oh, infrared. You can't see infrared. So you're allowing them to get a chance to truly understand what it is. And then we say, okay, now it's time to code. And you're going to let the students build these sequences. And they're going to actually get a chance to have their code written and see it move in real time. So where this I can make come to life, where how simple is this? Well, let me show you. I've now created a factory floor because I can do that virtually. And this could be an Amazon distribution center. It could be a Chewy. It could be a lot of logistics that are around. And as we know, you've got to be able to understand these are high wage, high demand jobs for students to allow them to see it. And you're seeing the inputs and the outputs. I've created this environment virtually. If you have a computer science program, you can actually, this is Unity based, you can actually build your own entire factory floor customized. How great is that for your students? And we're just leveraging AR and VR to do that. So here I am turning this on, and you're actually going to start to see the cardboard boxes come out. It's going to hit that first sensor. Remember, this is all tied to that PLC. I'm letting a student start to see what is going on. There is complex, wonderful careers that are a part of this, and they're seeing that as it happens. And I love what this can do for a student. I can pick up a box if I want. I can throw it off the line and make an error. The next one can come here. So they can see the different simulations, and I'm creating that over and over for students. And I love what that can do. So this is one of my favorite applications. This is actually called NearTech. It's a really, really great application. After that, I did want to mention we have things like construction. You know, I love what we can do with construction now. I mean, literally the price of lumber is up 300%. You know, one thing that has happened is new buildings are exploding. It's literally cost more than it's ever cost just to teach kids about construction. So leveraging AR and VR is going to be really powerful. When we want to teach them things like a measuring tape and allow them to see what that can do, where it doesn't have to be managed. We've gamified that process for them. That's really important. And they can do that. They can build walls virtually. And then even better, they can frame the house. And that's very powerful. It doesn't waste materials. And this is the same with HVAC. You know, this is very expensive, exploding, and allowing things to happen where these are all individual modules that a student can go through at their own pace. We have a great example of this at Pickens Technical College in Colorado that is using this, and it's been very, very powerful. All these modules come with it. It's super exciting. I love what they can do here. And I just really encourage you to think about how you can leverage this technology for your programs. This is very expensive, and it can be not safe to allow the students to do that. So exposure is going to be great. Now, I know this has been fast. Here's my cell phone. Here's my email address. And I want to reach out to me with more curriculum questions that you may have, or what areas you may have. Again, tech is a great partner of us. We are humbled to work with them. The tech team can help you. We're happy to jump on a Zoom and talk about your specific needs, but this is my email address. I know you saw my regional director here, Lisa Grippo. She was with you today. She's locally there in Long Island. She can come around to any of you. And the great part about it is there's 12 out of the 16 federal clusters. If you have questions on your Perkins grant or all the different fundings available, I'm happy to help you with that. As a former CTE director, I've written plenty of Perkins in my day. I can help you with how the data works, and I'm happy to do that with you. But I want to take a minute. We got about 6 minutes left. If there's any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. And I thank you all for coming today. I know that was very, very fast, but just to reiterate, automotive, we have alternative fuels as well. So hybrid or electric is growing. Imagine disassembling an electric car. Lithium ion is incredibly dangerous. This allows that to happen. Automotive and gas as well. You have all the construction you just saw, HVAC, we have welding, health, whether it's medical terminology, the body mechanics for a CNAID program is going to be really foundational for them. We have an actual standalone application for ECG. So if your students are earning that, they can go through lead placement, and they can do that all virtually. I know I spent a lot of money on leads, and that's a great way to do it. Agriculture, or maybe just vet and animal sciences, all of those animals that you only can cut one time. You can do all that virtually. And it really is a great experience for students. We can flip the classroom and speak the language of your students. So let me peek in here, ask some questions. Oh, photography and Videography, great question. So one of the things that we do is we don't have anything explicit for photography, but as you know, you mentioned we can record. So you can deal with your students making some videos and leveraging AR and VR as a part of those programs. So it's certainly something that is available for them, but it's not an explicit program. That's a great question. Keep them coming. I know they're popping in there. I heard you mention electrical. Yes, we do have electrical installation. So yeah, it will actually, so you said automotive, and I'm assuming you're meaning construction electrical. So we have a breadboard. We have a lot of low voltage electricity that they can go through, self-locking mechanisms, things that they would be in a repair world, where they can learn about all of that inside of it. That's a great application. It's called Electrical Controls, Raphael. Definitely check that one out. It's one of my favorite ones beyond just the breadboard, where they can learn about series and parallels and shorting. We have some troubleshooting involved in there. That's a really great application, but there is some standard electrical. Now, if you were talking electrical as running inside of a house, not yet. I'm actually working on a plumbing application right now first. Now that I've got the construction one, we're very actively pursuing plumbing right now, but that's a great question. So there's a lot of diversity. The high voltage is a little tricky. We don't explicitly have it for commercial. We do it with the electrical components, where I have a simulated scene where students go in and they start to work on a robot. So there's the powering down the electricity and working through it. I think I'd rather just show you that one. It's not a standalone, but I know a lot of my high voltage industrial partners use that application as just a sidebar for that one. That's a fantastic call out. Let me keep checking those questions. Architecture, I didn't mention that one. So we have a great relationship with, if you're doing any CAD work, this is super, super, super cool. So, you have the CAD programs, there's a lot of different CAD programs out there. Imagine taking those models and bringing them into AR and VR. So we have a relationship with Autodesk, but it could be another product out there. They have a lot of CAD programs, Revit, Inventor, that's all part of the Autodesk suite. But you're taking that and you can actually import it into ZSpace. So we could work on different sections of something and actually build it. And that's really, really cool. I love what that does. You can use Tinkercad as an introductory. If you go to tinkercad.com and you open it up, a file, and you click send to, you will actually see ZSpace on there. So that's something we have with them that allows you to do that as well. And that's a great, great use. So architecture is absolutely growing for us. We had a great program at the University of North Texas that uses it for their architecture program as well, and their manufacturing. It's awesome. So awesome questions. I will drop, again, I know you'll have so many more curriculum pieces that you may want. I'm going to drop my email in there. Please shoot me an email for some of those that I may have missed. I am humbled that those of you that came to join us today. Happy to do it again for you and your school centers as they have questions. Myself, and again, Lisa Grippo is here. We have the tech team. We are really excited to support you on this journey. And if you have any questions, we're here to help you. So with that said, Lisa, is there anything else we missed?
Nope, that's great. Thank you so much, Michael. We look forward to following up, and everyone have a great day.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Thank you.